Here's what we know. We've been in the startup game for a little while, and we've tried everything to get traction. And the issue with the old playbook is that at our size, nobody's really paying attention to us. For us to win anybody's attention, it is a massive struggle. And what we've experienced is that no matter what we do, whether it's conferences, whether it's paying for SDR teams to book meetings for us, whether it's content, or whether it's bringing in a heavy-hitting CRO from a big brand to help get us traction, what we've seen is that it still doesn't move the needle from an attention perspective. We're still having a hard time getting people to pay attention to us. We're having a hard time getting enough conversations. We're having a hard time getting the meetings. And more importantly, we're having a hard time even validating if our product theory is correct. And after all of those failures, we're still plugging away, trying to grow and accelerate, move from 0 to 1, and then move from 1 to growth, and then from growth to traction. But we realize that we have to do something different. And the issue is, in trying to do something different, it's tough to figure out where to start. That's where I come in. If this is your first time on this channel, hi, I'm Dr. Jim. I've spent my entire career helping B2B organizations build traction in the marketplace. I've done it as an individual contributor in Fortune 500 companies, and then I've done it for the majority of my life in startup environments. And actually in startup environments is where I excel. So if you're a founder that has got a B2B product in HR tech, TA tech, ed tech, executive coaching, those are the spaces that I play in often. And those are all the different types of organizations that I've helped move from 0 to 1, build something from nothing, and get them to a place where they have traction in the marketplace and can accelerate from there. That's what I've done. Now, the way that I've done it is pretty interesting. In the first handful of videos that you saw here and here, I talked about the foundational stuff that we need to think about, talking about the problem that exists in the marketplace, why buyers are behaving the way that they're buying, the subtle mindset shift that we need to take in order to be successful. What we're going to do in this conversation is lay the foundation. And what we're going to lay the foundation for is the mindset, skill sets, and tool sets that you need to adopt to go into the market differently so that you're winning that war for attention. So what does that involve? What it involves is that instead of smiling and dialing our way to success, we're actually going to embed content into how we go outbound and use that as a way to connect with everybody in our marketplace. In the last video, I talked about how the current way that everybody goes to market focuses on the 3% of the marketplace that's ready to buy. We can't afford to spend all of our time trying to find that 3%. We need to maximize the number of conversations that we can have so that we are getting intel at every step of the way, which will help us figure out our positioning, our messaging, our value prop, and help us understand what motivates our buyers to buy. What I focus on and what my system focuses on is helping you rise above the noise. And these systems that I've deployed for myself as well as for my clients have helped them build multi-million-dollar pipelines and have helped them open new markets, launch new products, accelerate into new geographies, and get to the point where they're ready to scale. And every video that I do is going to be focused in on how we've done that. And these are all battle-tested things that have worked out in the wild. So this is not theory that you're getting. Now, as you hear all of this, you probably heard the part where I said we embed content into everything. And you probably cringed, didn't you? And if you cringed, drop me a comment and let me know, what is it about hearing content and embedding content into your selling process or your outbound process that makes you nervous? And while you're at it, if this is your first time on this channel, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, do all of the things, because I want to build a nice little community of business leaders where we can actually help each other grow and accelerate in our businesses and into the market. It's okay to admit it. You cringed, didn't you? When I said content, you definitely cringed. And you probably thought, this is not for me. I'm not an influencer. I don't like being on video. I hate writing. I've tried this content stuff before and it doesn't work. Which one of those reasons came to mind when you heard me say content? Drop those in the comments as well. Now, here's the thing. I've got about 2,000 podcast episodes under my belt, and I've made, at this point, probably close to 5,000 or 10,000 different videos and pieces of content. And when I think about when I first heard about this as a go-to-market approach, I had the same feeling. So I don't want to be an influencer. Social media is just for cat videos and doom scrolling. There's no value that doing this can generate. But I gave it a shot. And now, years later, I've helped multiple companies accelerate into the marketplace using content as the main way that they go to market and get in front of the key people that they need to get in front of to build a healthy business from zero. So this stuff works. But let's set the ground rules. Whenever you hear content, you're probably thinking, this is all about likes and views. And I'm here to tell you that nothing that I do and nothing that I coach my clients on has to do with likes and views. That's one of the first conversations that I have with people who are my clients, is that you're not doing this to become an influencer. You're doing this to get in front of the people that you want to get in front of. And you're doing this so that you can build authentic relationships that allow you to be top of mind when your buyer is ready to buy. That's why we do this. So none of the stuff that we think of from a traditional influencer perspective applies here. All we're concerned about is validating our product theory, getting in front of our ideal prospects, defining what our ideal prospect looks like, defining what our market looks like, helping to figure out what our messaging and positioning should be, understanding, using the customer voice, why people buy from us. That's why we embed content into what we do. And this creates the opportunity for you to do that. And I'm going to teach you everything that I know. Steve Watt, who is the director of marketing at Seismic, often talks about mindset, skill sets, and tool sets. These are what you carry into the business environment that inform how you move forward. All of us who are in the startup space have a baked in set of mindset, skill set, and tool sets that we deploy to try to get traction. And the vast majority of us who are of a certain age probably came up in an environment when the mindset, skill set, and tool set required to be successful as a startup was to constantly grind and smile and dial our way to success. Everything was outbound, everything was heavy sales, everything was qualify in, qualify out, and everything it was trying to get people from one stage to another to ultimately buy our product. The problem with that, and I referenced it in this video, is that if you approach it that way, you're treating every single buyer as if they're ready to buy right now. And that's the wrong way to go to market because you turn off 97% of your marketplace. One of the things that we have to do is shift our mindset, skill sets, and tool sets. So when we think about doing that, the problem with the old way of going to market is that it didn't have a consistent system that's designed for founders like us. It didn't have something that helped people who are starting from nothing be successful and rise above the noise. And the reason why none of that stuff worked, even if you tried content, was that there was no underlying system in place that allowed you to align how your buyer buys with how you actually sell the product. And that has a lot to do with what I talk about on a regular basis when I'm doing these videos. It's aligning the buyer journey to your selling process and making sure that those are aligned well. So you're creating a frictionless way to collaborate with your customer and you're not feeling dirty about it in the process. One of the things that we want to do is shift your mindset, skill set, and tool set. And when you hear that, it sounds like a lot. And honestly, it is. It can be a multiple years long process to do this right. And what I'm doing in these videos is helping founders who are struggling to get traction hit fast forward and giving them all the tools that I've picked up over the years so that they can actually execute this themselves. Now, if you're interested in getting a deeper dive on all of this stuff, happy to have a conversation. You can use the booking link in the video and we can have a conversation and I can help you troubleshoot with that. So definitely think about doing that. But essentially, even if you don't want to have that conversation, each of these episodes is going to give a micro brain dump of the different elements of the selling process, the buyer journey, and everything in between that's going to help you execute the same way that I've executed for multiple clients across the country. So let's talk about resources. What are the things that you should be checking out so that you're doing a good job of shifting your mindset, skill set, and tool set and building those things in a way that it's going to help you be more effective as a startup founder? So what I'm going to do is talk you through the most influential books that I've read over the years that have had a tremendous impact in how I go to market and also how I've taught others to go to market. Probably the first book that I want to tell you about is Chop Wood, Carry Water. It's not a business book. It's a philosophy book. And when you hear philosophy, don't roll your eyes. The TLDR of this book is that it shifts your mindset from something that is purely concerned about the outcomes and shifts it to pig-headed discipline on the process. What happens is that a lot of people, when they're trying to do anything, they focus on the end result. And when the end result doesn't turn out the way that they want it to turn out, you get frustrated. That's what this sets on its head. This refocuses you on the process of getting to success. Because the fact of the matter is you can do everything right and still not win. And if you're only concerned about the winning piece of it, you're going to be pretty upset. You can do everything wrong and end up winning. And if you only focus on the outcome, you're going to think you're great. See where the flaw is in that thinking? The focus should be on doing everything in the process phase of it as best you can, as perfectly as you can, and then let the outcomes fall where they may. The idea is to have discipline, focus, and precision on the process. And at the heart of it, that book is about controlling what you can control. So that's why I recommend this as a starting point when you're thinking about shifting your mindset. The next book that I would recommend is Content-Based Networking. And that's by James Carberry, who is the founder of Sweetfish. This book was a game changer because this was one of the first books that I read that walk through how you can integrate all sorts of different content into how you meet your market and meet your prospects and allow you to have much more authentic relationships. We're in the attention economy and we're trying to rise above the noise. And as founders, our number one priority is to get people to buy our thing, right? If we're going to market telling everybody about our thing, nobody wants to talk to us. But if we're going to market and we're offering somebody else the stage to spotlight their expertise, you're going to get a lot of people who are interested in having a conversation with you. And that's the TLDR of content-based networking. When we're talking about embedding content into our outbound process and having content-led growth as a key strategy for building our startup from 0 to 1 to growth to traction, content-based networking is a book that's going to get your mind right in terms of how you need to think about this so that you can maximize the conversations that you have. The third book that I recommend is this, Sell Without Selling Out by Andy Paul. And the reason why that book is critical is because it teaches you a different way to sell. Now, for those of us who have come through the sales function of organizations, that's where I came out of. Most of our methodology and process has been focused on win-lose relationships. And when we do that, we fall in the habit of exerting all sorts of artificial pressure and manipulation tactics to try to get the win. And that process never worked for me. The sales managers that I worked for hated having me on their team because I would get results, but I wouldn't play any of those games. And when I was building teams, I built some of the best teams in the country in the organizations that I was at using a high ethical bar in how we behave. Because for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's not enough to get the win. You have to get the win the right way and you have to be able to sleep at night. And that's where Sell Without Selling Out is a great book from a mindset perspective in how you can authentically show up and authentically engage with your prospects and your customer landscape without having to cheapen who you are and without having to operate unethically. So it's a great book when we're thinking about that mindset piece. The next book that I recommend is Clients for Life. Now, what this book does, and it ties in with Chet Holmes's Ultimate Sales Machine, but the great thing about Clients for Life is that it shifts your mindset about how you should look at the buyer-seller relationship. The problem with how everyone does things today is when you go outbound, you're having conversations to see who's in the market for today. And while you're having those conversations, you're pissing off 90% of your marketplace. What I wanted to do is I want to have conversations with 100% of my marketplace because the goal for me is to have them as a customer at some point and have them think of me when they have a need. And shifting your mindset to operate in that way helps you build really strong relationships to the point where you can continue to go back to those people that you built those relationships, and they're going to take your call. They're going to respond to your emails because you focused on building rapport, trust, and credibility up front without being transactional. So this requires us to get out of short-term thinking and think more long-term in how we want to build our ecosystem and our customer base. Next book, Exceeding Customer Expectations. A lot of what I talk about has to do with the buyer journey and the buyer experience. The reason why that's important to me is that I put myself in the shoes of the buyers. All of us have experienced it where we are in our emails or getting a call, and as soon as we pick up or respond to the email, somebody's always trying to sell us something. Nobody wants to go through their day dealing with that. Kind of makes you feel gross, doesn't it? And every time I see an email or get a DM or get a voicemail or a call from somebody I don't know that's trying to tell me something, I don't pay attention. I usually delete and block them so they can never email me again. And the reason why Exceeding Customer Expectations is such a great book is because it's something that rewires how you think from the customer's point of view and allows you to craft experiences in how you go to market that gets your customers eager to want to talk to you. So think about the difference in that. We've all experienced our DMs, our emails, and our phones blowing up with somebody trying to sell us something, and we hate it. How different would it be if you're on the receiving end of something that you're excited about and you pick up the phone or you reply to that email? Everything that I talk about and everything that I've helped clients execute on is focused on getting your customer to have that sort of experience with you from touch point one. And I've been doing this for years, and that's built multi-million-dollar pipelines. It's generated millions of dollars in revenue, and it's closed hundreds of deals without ever pissing a customer off. That's what everybody would love to have. The last set of books that I'm going to talk to you about is all by one author. It's by Stu Heineck. First book, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. Second book, Get the Meeting. And the third book is How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed. These three books I call the holy trinity of outbound. For those of you who don't know who Stu Heineck is, He's a nationally recognized cartoonist. He's done stuff for the Wall Street Journal. He's a marketer, and he's the creator of something called contact marketing. Early in his career, he was in advertising. And one of the things that he was tasked to do was build his portfolio of customers. And rather than go the old route, which was dominant in his day and age, what he did is he thought of something different. He had all of these skills, and what he did was he sent these contact pieces to the top CEOs that he wanted to meet, and he ended up being one of the top ad people in his company and in his industry. And what all three of these books do is that it teaches you what he did, which can be easily applied and modified to how you want to go to market. So when we're talking about embedding content into how we go to market, the principles of that can be built off of everything that you read in Stu's books. You might be thinking, geez, Dr. Jim, you just listed off like 8 books. I didn't realize that I was going to be going to college and doing all this reading. Here's the thing. You can get those books. You can read them at your own leisure. But everything that I talk about is built off of stuff that I learned in the book. Every single video that you see of mine embeds everything that I've learned from these books and have applied in the marketplace, and you get the benefit of getting that finished product. And the benefit of getting those books as part of your toolkit is that it gives you baked in set of resources that you can reference back to and understand the why of what we're doing. I can give you the tactics, I can give you the strategy, but until you understand the why we're doing that, it's not going to fully connect. So if you have the time, definitely invest in yourself and get those books, because it's going to help you better connect with your customers and better connect with your market, which is going to help you get to traction faster. Hopefully you liked what you saw here. All of those books, I'll list them in the show notes so you have them later and you can get them on your own. But if you have any questions about any of these books, or if you have a book that you feel I should read, drop those in the comments as well. The key thing is we're on this journey together. I've done this over and over again where I've helped B2B founders go from 0 to 1 to growth to traction. And I'm going to be talking in these videos about every single thing that I've done to build from the ground up those organizations and get them on their pathway to success. So even if you don't get these books, you're still going to get the benefit of all the stuff that I've learned and executed out in the wild. If you like the conversation, make sure you leave me a comment. I'll subscribe, do all of the things that, the influencers like you to do. And I'll be looking forward to having another conversation in the near future. The next episode, we're going to start building that content strategy from the ground up. And specifically, we're going to talk about what you need to understand from the market or buyer perspective and how that informs your content strategy. Hopefully you'll join me a week from now for that episode, but I appreciate you hanging out in these conversations. If this is the first time that you've seen me in your feed, make sure you check out the previous episodes and get caught up to speed. If you have questions in any of those, drop those in the comments and I'll answer every single one. But tune in next time where I'll have another episode for you and we're going to start building that content strategy from the ground up.